Okay, good morning. Hope everybody had a good weekend and staying safe. So I put the first 4 assignments. I graded those, or I went through those. And so you should see that I put your grades up for the first, not really grade, but just credit or no credit. Okay, so in the grade center, you should see that you got points or didn't get points for examples 2.4, 2.2, 2.4, 2.5 in the curve fitting. And so basically if you got a 1, then you got full credit. And if you didn't do the assignment or it was incomplete or something, then you get a 0. And so then I either, and some of you I sent an email to saying that it's incomplete or something like that. So if you got, let me write this here. Okay, so on Blackboard you should see that I put up grades for the first 4 assignments. And if you got 1, then you got full credit or 100%. Or if it was incomplete or you didn't do it, then you got a 0. And then I also put the my solutions or my completed Excel files for those first 4 assignments. Okay, so those are there. And so I'll continue to put the grades up after the due dates, and also I'll put my solutions or my completed Excel files after the due date. And so hopefully you got you saw your grades for those. Okay, so today any questions about the grading or the solutions or anything? Nope. Okay. All right. So today what we're going to do today is example 4.3. All right. So it looks like we'll do example 4.3 today, and then on Thursday we'll do example 4.4. And then at the conclusion of this week, we're pretty much through, almost through a third of the semester. And so this is the point where I'm going to kind of give you guys normally it would be an in-class exam, but this semester it's going to be a take-home exam. And so you'll see that the first, it's a take-home exam. It's just you can use your notes. It's just like a homework assignment. And so we'll do the exercises this week. And then next week, I'll do kind of a review, or I'll prepare like a practice exam for the midterm one, and then I'll give you the midterm Tuesday or Thursday next week. Okay, so after we finish this week, we'll kind of stop and take an exam, or not take an exam, but you'll have a take-home exam. And then after the take-home exam, we'll start kind of the second third of the class. Okay, and so first we got to finish up the examples for this week, which are example 4.3 and 4.4. Alright, so you can open up the example 4.3 with the steps and then also the aggregate planning 1, and that's the Excel file. Okay, so this is the older textbook, but this is the description is pretty similar. So let me read this, and this will get us started on example 4.3. It's a little bit different in the version we're using, but this gives us the idea, and you can see it. So during the next 4 months, the SureStep company must meet on time the following demands for pairs of shoes. So 3,000 in month 1. 5,000 in month 2, 2,000 in month 3, and 1,000 in month 4. Okay, at the beginning of the month, 500 pairs of shoes are on hand, and SureStep has 100 workers. Workers paid $1,500 per month. Each worker can work up to 160 hours a month before he or she receives overtime, and then the worker can work up to 20 hours of overtime per month. So they're paid $13 an hour for overtime labor. Obviously this is outdated because that's not even the minimum wage in California. It takes 14 hours of labor and $15 of raw materials to produce 4 pairs of shoes. At the beginning of each month, workers can be hired or fired. Each hired worker costs $1,500 and each fired worker costs $2,000. At the end of each month, holding costs of $3 per pair of shoes, that's like the storage cost for the inventory is incurred, and all the production in a given month can be used to meet this month's demand or the next month's demand. You can store it. So let's determine a optimal production schedule and labor policy. So this is, there's a lot going on here, but we'll get the idea once we start doing the spreadsheet. So the shoe company is basically just trying to minimize cost and meet demand at each month for the shoes at the lowest cost solution possible. Okay, so this concept or this style of problem, whatever you want to call it, is called aggregate planning. And so there's a little 5-minute or so video you can look at if you want to take a look at that when you get a chance. So let's do this aggregate. So aggregate planning is like planning for multiple horizons or multiple months. So not only do you have to meet demand currently, you might have to meet demand next month or next quarter or so on. And that's a good example of that in this example. Okay, so there's a bunch of things going on. I think if we just start doing the steps, while we do the inputs, I can explain all the numbers. Okay, so this one, so steps 1 through 10 are the regular model. I know we didn't get to solver table last time, so if we have time, I want to get to solver table. And then the rest of the steps are kind of some extensions. And so, for sure we have to get through steps 1 through 10 and solve the model. I'd like to get the solver table, because we didn't do that last time. And then, I do want to go through the practice problems as well. And so we have this model is semi-long, but we don't have to get through all of it. And whatever we get to, is all you have to do for turning in the assignments. And so, if we have time to do all the extensions, we'll do it. If we don't, we don't. Okay, step one is, what we normally do is these are. Okay, so I think I turned somebody's audio off, so if you have a question, just turn it back on. Okay, so step one is to note where the objectives, input, decision variables, and constraints are for this model. So we'll go back to the spreadsheet. Okay, so the first group of stuff here, these are all inputs. It says input data, so you can highlight this region, the light blue color. Okay, so we start with 500 pairs of shoes. We start with 100 workers. Workers can work 160 hours per month. They can work up to 20 hours of overtime hours per month. And it costs $1,600 to hire somebody, $2,000 to fire a worker. Regular wages are $1,500 per month. Overtime is hourly, $13 per hour. Okay, this is important. So it takes 4 hours to make a pair of shoes. So we have the opportunity for each 4 hours of labor that can possibly produce a pair of shoes. So that's kind of the production capacity. It's $15 of raw material cost for like the leather and the materials that go into the shoes. That costs $15. And if we have extra, if we overshoot demand or just want to plan for the next month, we can do that, but we have to pay a storage cost at $3 per pair of shoes. Okay, so if you look down here, there's like 4 ranges of decision variables. The first area we have to decide is how many workers to hire and how many workers to fire each month. And so this whole area is a decision variable range. So you can highlight that area, the light red for decision variables. That's the solver's going to figure that out later. And B18 to E19, highlight that, the light red color. That's one area for decision variables. Okay, we also have to decide how much overtime to give to the workers. So that's also a decision variable range. Okay, so B23 to E23, you can highlight that, the light red color as well. This is our first constraint area, so we have to note that we have a certain amount of overtime available, and we can't go over that each month. So the overtime labor hours used have to be less than or equal to the max overtime labor hours available for each month. So you can put a less than or equal to here, starting in B24. And you can drag that across, so you get a less than or equal to in B24 and E24. So each month we can't exceed what we have available for overtime hours. That's a constraint. Okay, so there's already some numbers in here, but shoes produced, we obviously have to decide that. So another decision variable range, I think this is the last one, is the shoes produced, B30 to E30, highlight that light red. Okay, another constraint is we can't produce more than we can possibly produce in production. So production capacity is the capacity of the maximum we can produce. So we can't produce more than that each month. So put a less than or equal to in this range. Which is B31 to E31. All right, that's another constraint area. We're limited by production capacity. Okay, I think, well, another constraint, I think this is the last one, is we got to meet the, so importantly, we have to meet the forecasted demand each month. So inventory after production, how many shoes we have, has to meet demand because that's the point of this whole model. So put a greater than or equal to this here. So the sign goes the other way. So in D35 to E35 show that inventory after production has to meet demand. So put that inequality in that range for that constraint. Okay, and then just a few more things, and we'll start calculating tomorrow. So inventory after production, that's given for now. That's not going to change. So that's technically an input area. Okay, so B36 to E36, that's light blue for the last range of inputs, and I think the last thing is the objective. When we get to this cell F46, we're going to minimize total cost, so that's our objective. So you can highlight that, the highlight yellow color. Okay, so that was step one. There's a bunch of stuff going on here. Step two is to make the range names, and then we'll start doing the calculations. So back to the model. Okay, so let's make a range name for each of the decision variable ranges for both sides of all the constraints, and then for the objective. Okay, so I think that's all we need to do, but there's a bunch of things. So let's start with the workers hired and fired range. Okay, you can select that range, A18 to E19, and then remember Formulas tab. And then create some selection. Again, it should default to left row to give it these names, so hit OK. Let's make a range name for overtime labor hours used. Select A23 to E23 and do the same thing. Formulas. Create some selection. Left column should be checked. Hit OK. Let's do it for max overtime labor hours used, which is select A25 to E25. Formulas. Create some selection. Left column is checked. OK. Okay. Shoes produced. We need to select A30 to E30 and do the same thing. Production capacity. Select A32 to E32 and do the same process in the formulas. Okay, inventory after production, select A34 to E34, make a range name for that. Okay, forecasted demand, select A36 to E36, make a range name for that. And I think finally we have to name the objective, which is going to be entered done manually. So choose the yellow cell, which is F46, and go up to the name box. Let's call this total cost, so total underscore cost. Okay, so we'll call it total cost up in the name box and just hit enter. Alright, and let's double check our range name. So with the formulas tab, you can click on the name manager. Alright, we got forecasted demand, we got inventory after production, we got max overtime labor hours available, we got overtime labor hours used, we got production capacity, shoes produced, and then total cost, workers fired and workers hired. Okay, so does everyone have these names before we start doing the calculations? So if you don't see the same range names here, then let me know and I'll help you reselect them. All right, let's move on to step 3. Okay, this step is easy, but we have to do it. Just production, hiring, and firing plans. So put any trial values in all the decision variable range. So we got to decide how many workers to hire, how many workers to fire, how much overtime to use, and then how much shoes to produce each month. So just go back to the spreadsheet. And just put any numbers, any values into this range. Workers hired and workers fired range. I'll just put ones in for now. Alright, so in that range, you can just put in ones or any value will work. Do the same here. You can put any values in this overtime range. So I'll just put ones in for now. Okay, you got ones in there, and then there's already some numbers into the shoes produced. So we can just leave that for now. It'll get fixed later. Okay, so basically, you want to have numbers in all of these red decision variable ranges. All right. Now, step 4. So let's calculate the workers available each month. So this step you can put in the formula starting with B17. So back to the spreadsheet. All right. In B17, the formula is equals B5. Okay, so we start with 100 workers. Let's just make a note of that, equals B5. Then in C17, we have to put in this formula that you see in step 4, which is equals B20. Okay, and then you can put an equals B20 and then copy that across the other ones. So equals B20 here. And you can go back to C17 and grab it and drag it across to D and E like this. Okay, so we start with 100 workers, and then each month after that, see how it's workers available after hiring and firing. So we have to calculate that, but it's going to be just workers hired minus workers fired. So whatever we have available at the end of the month is what we start with for the next month. So this is equal to the difference of that. Okay, and so basically all we did here is the starting month for the current month. What we start with is what we had from the previous month after we hired and fired the given number of workers. Okay, so it should be equals B5 equals B20 equals C20 and equals D20. All right, then in B20, we enter this formula because we start with a certain number of workers and then we hire and fire, or we might, but we have to make the option. So in B20, the formula goes here in step 2, step 4. Okay, equals B17 plus B18 minus B19. So whatever we start with, plus how many we hire, and then minus how many workers we fire, that's the total number we have. So what we have to start, what we add, and what we fire is the sum here. And then you can take B20 and just drag it across to E20 like this. All right, so that should set up workers available at the end of each month, which is what we start with. Again, minus plus how many workers we hire, and then minus how many workers we fire, then that's the total we have left. Okay, step 5. Let's calculate the overtime capacity, putting that goes in B25, the first cell. All right, so in B25, you can put in the formula you see in step 5, which is this one. Equals $B$7 times B20. All right, so this is the max overtime hours we can use per month per worker. And if there's this many workers, then the total is this per worker times that many workers. So 20 times 100 now is going to be 2,000. All right, and then you can just grab the bottom right corner of B25 and drag it across to C, D, and E for the rest of the month. Okay, so each of these should represent the total number of overtime we have available, which is simply the number per worker that's possible times the total number of workers. All right, next step is step 6. All right, so production capacity, we'll start calculating that in cell E22. All right, everybody following along? Everybody good so far? Okay, so back to B22 cell, and then put in the formula you see in your Word document for step 6, which is equals. Okay, so equals $B, $6 times B20. And so this formula is just if each worker can work 160 per month, and we have 100 workers, then the total is just the product of those two. So number of workers times hours they can work per month. All right, and you know what's coming here. Just take the bottom right corner of B22 and drag it across to C, D, and E for months 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so you should get 1,600 for each month for now. That will depend on the number of workers you have. But yeah. Okay, and then we're still in step 6 in cell B27. You can put in this formula. Equals B22 to B23. So the total hours, there's a lot of steps here, but they're all pretty simple. So total hours for production is just regular time hours plus overtime hours. So the sum of the two is the total. And then B27, take that formula, drag it across, grab the bottom right corner for months 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so they should all be 1601 for now. And then the final part of step 6 is to go to cell B32 and calculate production capacity, which is just this formula equals Okay, equals B27 divided by $B$12. And this is the production capacity. This is important because this is the total hours we have, and each 4 hours we can produce a pair of shoes. So hours divided by 4, which is production capacity, which is the labor hours per pair of shoes, gives us how many shoes we can possibly produce given the hours, and the fact that it takes each 4 hours we can produce a pair of shoes. So 1601 divided by 4 is about 4,000, and then grab the bottom right corner of B32 and drag that across for months 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so for now, this should all be 4,000.25. All right, next step. We need to calculate the inventory each month. So let's start doing that in cell B34. All right, so in cell B34, put in the formula you have for step 7. So here's the formula. Equals B4 plus B30. And so inventory after production is just how many shoes we produce plus so the first month we start with 500 and then we produce that many. So the first month is how many we start with plus how many we produce, which for now is 4260. But in the next month, C34, put in your formula equals B37 plus C30. And that is the inventory after production. So if we produce this many, and we had this many from last month, then the total of leftover inventory plus production this month is the total we have now, right? And you can grab the bottom right corner of C34 and drag that across to months 3 and 4. Alright, so you should get those values for now. So we calculated the inventory after production for each month. Then let's go down to B37, ending inventory. You can put in this formula.
Sorry, Professor?
Yeah.
For the C34, I got 5,000.
Okay. What do you have here? 2,000?
Yeah, 2,000.
So the only one different is this one?
For C34.
Okay, so alright, so what is so for this formula, does it say equals D37 plus E30?
Yes.
So that means that this number must not be 1,000, right?
So I think because on the steps it says to put a different formula on the
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Like I said, there's a few, in the steps, it says to set a different formula than the B formula.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't, your sound is just like, really, scrambled, so I can't.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, yeah.
Okay, sorry. It says in the steps that the C formula is different than the B formula.
Oh, did I mess something up? So.
I mean, I don't know, but I just followed the steps, and it said that you have to enter a different formula in the C, and then you could drag it over.
Probably right. So this one?
No, just in 34. Yeah, that's the one. It's supposed to, I think it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah, so you're right, but I think we did it. So this one was B4 plus B30, and so maybe yeah. So maybe the error was that you didn't put the different formula in. So right, maybe you caught the error. So this one should be equals B30 plus B4 plus B30, and this one, don't drag it across. This should be equals B37 plus B30, and then you drag this one across, right?
Yeah, I still got 5,000 too. I don't know how, though.
Okay.
But I got the 2,000 and the 1,000 for D and E.
So let's go back to, alright, so in B34, it's B4 plus B30, and then in C34, it's B37 plus C30, and that one should be copied across. This should be C37 plus C30, and this should be, I think this is right. Good. So
Yeah, I have the same formulas, just the only difference is that the C is 5,000.
Oh, I saw. Did you put the formula on the B37?
Me?
Yeah.
Did I put what?
The formula on the B37.
B37.
yeah, because it's all dependent on so these numbers were in there already, I think. So in the shoes produced, so let's say 3760, 3740, 2000, and 1000. Because this formula is just.
Oh, is it because I think it's because I added ending inventory already. My bad.
Oh, yeah, that might, yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, we haven't got to that step yet. So the first question was this one, and so does this one still need to be fixed? Or
I was gonna say I too have 5,000 above in C what is it? C34.
well, so that unless have we already gone to the next step? That could be it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If some of you have gone ahead, then because this is just 3740 plus nothing right now. But if you put something here, then it might be. Let's finish step 7, and then we'll see if we still have issues. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we put in these. So step 7, the formulas would be in this one. B34 is equals B4 plus B30. This is equals B37 plus C30. This is equals C37 plus D30, and this is equals B37 plus E30. Now the next step, which some of you might have done already, is go down to E37, and then the formula equals. Oh, see, I know what happened is I was doing the formula, and then someone asked a question, and then I stopped doing the formula, and then some of you probably already did it. And yeah, okay. In B37 equals B34 minus B36. And then, yeah, so that's the problem because, I recorded the formula, then most of you did it, and then, I deleted it. Okay. Then,
Yeah, I think that's it because I didn't skip ahead and I was just like, why is my number different?
yeah, I think I was putting in the formula, and then when the question was asked, I like automatically stopped doing it, and then, yeah. Okay. So then you can take this one, B37, and drag that across there. And so now, let's see if we got the same numbers. So, 42, 60, 5,000, 2,000, 1,000, and then down here we got 1260 and 3 zeros. Okay, now are we, does everyone have these numbers, or do we need to double check?
I got them.
Okay.
Yeah, I got him too.
Okay, looks like that was the problem, is that, I did the next step, and then I stopped doing it, and then you guys, everyone else did it. Yeah. Alright, so if we've got, this stuff, we can go to the next step. Which is to calculate the monthly cost. So, there's a bunch of formulas here. We're going to put these formulas that you see in step 8 in B40 to B45, starting at B40, all the way down to B45 respectively, and then we have to get the formulas right because we're going to copy them across to the other months. But starting at B40, this formula goes, and then all the way down to B45, so B40, B41, and so on. So let's put all these formulas starting in B40 to B45. Okay, so B40, down here, and you can type in your first formula. So there's a list of them. Do the first one first. U equals $B, $8 times B18. So hiring cost is the cost per worker to hire times how many workers we hire. Right? Pretty simple. And B41 equals $B, $9 times B19. Okay, this is the cost to fire a worker. We fire this many. Then that's the total cost. This times this. Next step, B42 equals $B, $10 times B20. Okay, so the regular time wages is this many workers per month. They get this much per month, there's this many workers, so the total is this times this. B43 equals B11 times, $B, $11 times B23. Okay, overtime wages are, $13 per hour. And if we work this many hours, then the total is 13 times the total hours, this times this. Okay, B44 equals $B, $13 times B30. Okay, raw material cost is it's $15 per pair of shoes, and we produce this many shoes, so that times that is going to give us the total. And then finally, holding costs in B45 equals $$ B, $14 times B37. Alright, so this is the storage cost. This is how many shoes we put in the inventory, so the sum of the two is the total cost. Alright, so if you got those formulas for month one, you'll notice that we put the input, the price, with the dollar sign, so when we drag it across, it's going to give us the same input price, but a different month. So if you got these formulas all in for B40 to B45, select them all together like this, right? B40 to B45, then take the bottom right corner and drag it all the way across to month 4 like this. Alright, and that should do the appropriate formulas for months 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then we just need to get the totals in both the rows and the columns. So, starting in F40 equals sum equals sum B40 to E40, so the sum of all the hiring costs across the month. And then you want the sum for all of the items, so grab the bottom right corner of F40 and drag it down to F45. And then you can also do the monthly sums, so in B46 equals sum equals sum B40 to B45 for all of the costs in month 1 enters. And then you can drag that across, grab the bottom right corner of B46 and drag it over to 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, and then in the yellow cell, the objective, the total is going to be this should be either the sum of the months or the total. It should be the same thing. We'll double check. So let's in F46, let's put in equals. Okay, equals sum of B46 to E46. So the sum of the sums. And then we can double check in this cell that the sums are correct. So go to G46 and type in equals sum. Sum of F40 to F45, so confirm that the monthly totals are the same as the itemized total. Okay, so you should hopefully get that the total here is 775, 732, and also the total here is 775, 732. So we double check that these totals come out to the same as these totals. Okay. Is everyone good on this part? Are we got the totals the same? Oh, so where's the formula for the total box? This one? So in the yellow cell, it's equals from B46 to E46, and then the other total is from F40 to F45. Okay, does that work? Okay, you're welcome. All right, so let's move on to the next step, which is going to be to solve this model. Okay, we did step 9, which was the totals, and step 10 is going to be to minimize the total cost using the solver. So now, go back to the model. And so I helped you guys add it, or what is it, like activate the solver last time, and so hopefully you still have it. If you don't, I can show you how to do it again. So click on the data tab, and if you loaded solver last time, you should see solver there. So data tab, we need to have solver. So let me post a question here. All right, so does anyone not have solver under the data tab, which means that I need to show you how to check it again. So click on the data tab and make sure that everyone here has solver. If you don't, I'll show you how to recheck it.
I don't have solver.
Okay, so here's how we do it. So there's, if you're using a Mac, it's a little bit different. I'll have to show you the steps again, but if you're using Windows, click on the File tab. Okay, so File, and then go down and choose Options. And then when you're here, click on the Add-ins button. And then down here where it says Manage Excel Add-ins, click on the Go button. And when you get to this box, the Add-ins box, you should see that you have the Solver Add-in option. Okay, so if you see the Solver Add-in option and the box is not checked, then check the box. Alright, so check Solver Add-in and then hit the OK button. And then if everything worked correctly, under the Data tab, you should see the Solver button, if that all works. So So did that work for those of you that needed solver, or should? Okay, so does everyone have solver now, or do we still need to redo that?
I have a Mac.
Okay, so Mac, you need to go to, what was the?
It's tools.
Okay, yeah. So up here, where you see tools, click on tools, and then I think add-ins. Okay, does that work? So under tools, there's some kind of add-ins option, and it should take you, I think, to this area.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, and then, yeah, just check it. Okay. All right. Everyone has solver now? Anyone? Well, we have to have solver for the rest of the model. So if you don't have it, let me know, and we'll. All right. So it looks like we all have solver, hopefully, and we're going to use it now. All right. So click, if you have solver now, click on the data tab, and then hit solver. Okay, so it should take you to this solver parameters box. All right. And so what we're going to do now is specify the problem, and then Excel, the solver is going to solve it for us. So we're going to tell Excel, we're going to tell solver to meet demand, to satisfy the constraints, but by doing that, to minimize costs. All right. So our objective is the cost cell. So you can click on this where it says set objective. Click on this button. And just choose F46. Choose the yellow cell for the objective. And then see here where it says to make sure you choose minimize, to minimize, because you want to minimize total cost. You want to pay the least, not the most. So minimize. And then we have to specify all of the decision variable cells here. There's 4 ranges. So when it says by changing variable cells, click on that button. All right, and then you got to choose all of these ranges, the red ranges separately. So first is the workers hired. Okay, so select B18 to E18 and then comma. B19 to E19 for workers fired, and then comma. Overtime labor hours used. So B23 to E23, and then the final one, comma. B30 to E30. So you got, and don't worry about the dollar signs, it'll just, that's how it selects it. So you got B18 to E18, comma, B19 to E19, comma, B23 to E23, comma, B30 to E30. So all of those selected individually. And then hit the button to finish the selections. All right, and now we're going to add all of the constraints. So the first, see where it says subject to the constraints. Click on add. Okay, and our first constraints, overtime labor hours used is less than or equal to the max overtime labor hours available. So click on Okay, so you get to this add constraint and then hit this button for cell reference. Choose B23 to E23. Hit the button. You can leave that as less than or equal to, and then constraint is B25 to E25. Okay, so this is less than or equal to this. Hit that. Hit OK. Alright, so we have some more stuff to do, but you should see that the range names have been automatically populated into your solvers box if you did the range names and if you did the right selections. So you should see now that total cost, minimized, and all of our range names here. Right. Okay, so you need to do the constraint. Alright, so to redo the constraint, let me just delete it and then do it again. Alright, so the constraint where it says subject to the constraint, click on add. And the cell reference, click on this button. And you want to choose with the mouse E23 to E23 and then hit the button to select it. And then for the constraint, click on the button. And choose B25 to E25 and then hit the button to select it. Okay, so you should have B23 to E23 is less than or equal to B25 to E25 and hit the OK button. And it should show the range names there where you got your first constraint is overtime labor hours used or less than or equal to the maximum overtime labor hours available. And so this is what the parameters should look like thus far. All right. Are we good here so far? All right. We have more constraints. So click on the add button again. The next constraint is the production constraint. So click on the cell reference button. Choose B30 to E30 and then hit the button to select it. And for the constraint, hit the button and choose E32 to E32 and hit the button again. Alright, so for this one, you should have B30 to E30 is less than or equal to B32 to E32 and hit OK. So if you've got the range name, you should get choose produced is less than or equal to the production capacity, which is the production constraint. Alright, we have more constraints, so click on the add button again. So we need to show here that we need to meet demand. So for this constraint, click on the cell reference button. Choose B34 to E34 and select it with the button. This one, you got to flip the sign around to be greater than or equal to. So we have to meet demand, right? So make sure this one is now greater than or equal to. The default is the less than, but switch it to greater than. Then the constraint, hit the button and choose B37 to E37. Hit this. So this one we have B34 to E34 is greater than or equal to B37 to E37. Hit OK. Okay, so we have a few more things to switch, or to not switch, but to do, and then we'll hit the solve button. So we need to specify that the workers are whole numbers, because we can't, when you specify you can't hire or fire like a fraction of a worker. That doesn't make any sense. So we have to limit or constrain the workers hired and workers fired range to be whole numbers, which are integers. So let's add a couple more constraints. Click on Add. And choose here where it says Cell Reference. Click on this button. And choose the workers hired range, which is B18 to E18, and hit the button again. And then see how this, hit the drop down and choose the INT button, sorry, integer, and it should just do that. So it should say the B18 to E18 INT integer. Hit OK. So if you did that correctly, it should say that workers hired now equals integer. We're going to do one more of those for the workers fired. So hit Add one more time. Cell reference, hit the button, is workers fired, which is B19 to E19. Hit the button, and again, switch this option, the drop down to INT. So you got cell reference B19 to E19, INT integer. And then you're going to hit the OK button.
For inventory after production, did you mean to do B37 to E37 or
Oh, did I choose the wrong thing? Yeah, it looks like I did the wrong thing. What did I, let's see. Alright, so, unless I didn't name it. So it should have been,
it's 36?
Yeah, so that's correct. I messed this one up, so click on this one that says inventory after production is greater than or equal to E37 to E37, and you can edit it if you did the wrong thing like I did. So click on it and hit change. And this part is fine. This part is fine, but the constraint, you can hit the button and fix it to B36 to E36. That's correct. So this, it should say, change it from 37 to 36. So it should say equals B36 to E36. So thank you, that's correct. And if you fix the constraint part, B36 to E36, you can hit the OK button. And it should look correctly like that. Okay. Then you need to switch. There's a lot of steps here. So you got to see where it says make unconstrained variables non-negative. That should be checked. If it's not, check that. And select a solving method. Make sure this is simplex LP. Alright, so double check that your parameters look like this. And we have one more option to check when we figure out what it is, and then just confirm that yours looks like this. And if it doesn't, let me know and I'll help you fix it. Okay. So do we change this? Do we change set objective to total cost? So the objectives to this, if you chose the yellow cell, it should automatically change it to total cost because that's the range name. So if you name this total cost, it should come up. If it doesn't, you just didn't name it, that's okay. But it should either say total cost or F46. Alright, so if it doesn't say either of those two, then let me know and I'll help you fix it. But if it says $F, $46, that should be fine. Or if you change the range name, or if you named it range, total cost, it should come up as total cost. Okay, so what did you say? Okay. And then, one final thing, this one you have to click, so if you're here on the solver parameter still, there's a button that says options, click that. And then it should take you here, alright, and then you should see this, an option for enter optimality percentage. I don't even know what this means, but you have to change this to 0. Okay, so if you get to the options to where it says enter optimality percent, change that to 0 and hit OK. Okay, so there when you get that last part, it won't show up here, but it's just under the options. It comes out as a weird decimal if you don't get it. So did we get the options, enter optimality set? Alright, let's see what we get here. So if we get your solver parameters, we got objective, total cost, minimizing that, you're changing workers hired, workers fired, overtime labor hours used, and fuel produced. You have all these constraints. Inventory after production is greater than or equal to demand. Overtime labor hours used is less than or equal to minimum overtime labor hours available. Fuel produced is less than or equal to production capacity. Workers fired is an integer. Workers hired is an integer. This is checked. This is simplex LP, and you hit the options button, maybe, and shows your enter optimality percent to be 0. Okay, so let's hit solve. And let's hit OK. Alright, this is the answer. This is the correct answer. 692.80 should be in both of these cells. Did we get that?
Mine fell off.
I mean, I figured that, yeah, somebody would not.
I think my solver is taking a little bit, so.
Oh, well, okay. Well,
Mine is also way off.
all right, that's okay. It's, what are the numbers saying? Like,
Mine is, my total is 766,502.
I got 110.
Mine's the same thing, 766.
502.
110. 100.
okay. Yeah, the 766 seems popular, and that's not that far off, so maybe that's just, something in the solver. The 110, something needs to be fixed, but, alright, so the first thing we can do is just check and see if the solver, parameters are the same. So, click on data and click on solver, and then if you got a different answer than what I got, let's just look at the solver parameters and let me know if anything looks different. Importantly, this has to be minimized. So, and then another common error could be that this is a lesson. So check the sign here is greater than, but
I see. Alright. Okay. I think I figured out what I did.
okay, good. Alright, so anyone else need, the first thing I can try to fix is just the parameters here. So anything different here that needs to be, reselected?
The my changing variable cells?
Yeah.
I mean, the by changing variable cells, yeah. What did you do again for that one?
So you had to select all the red cells individually, or all the decision variable ranges. So you have to choose this button. And then you have to select workers hired, comma, then select workers fired, comma, and then select.
Mine, because like when I look at your data, mine is like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 now.
Oh, it doesn't, yeah, so these are the
Like yours, because like now yours is like 6 and 43 and then 80. Mine is everything is just 0.
Okay, well, so if your file length is different, then those have to be different, but what's important is that you see these things here. So if you say workers hired, comma, workers fired, comma, overtime labor reduced, comma, students produced, is this part the same?
It was, yeah.
Okay, well, so that part's okay. And then, well, it's, I'll hit solve again. Let's see what. Okay, well, so hopefully some of us got this answer. It seems like we've got some creative answers. And
Can you go over the options again?
Sure. Yeah, okay, so solver. So, and remember that we also did this. You had to click on the options button and change the interoptimality % to 0. And then hit OK, and that should take you back to the solver box.
Does it matter if that the ignore and integral constraints is clicked or not? Because mine has a check on it.
I don't know. So,
Hold on, click it then.
yeah, try and clicking it. I don't. Or integer constraints. Yeah, if this is 0, I don't think it matters, but yeah, you can try and checking it. And then back to the solver parameters. So,
So when I hit solve, it used to keep saying objective cell values do not converge. Then it gives me the option of keep solver solution or restore original values.
so that one, it sounds like some formula's not sinking in, so it's possible that there's, like, the numbers aren't coming to the right formula or something. So it has, okay, well, I can look at some of these if you guys want me to try to fix them, or, let's see. Alright, so, alright, so we've done the main model, so this is up to this point is all we're gonna have to turn in. So up to step 10, the rest of the steps, we're not gonna get to the solver table. And we're not going to do, these are like steps 12, 13, 14, and 15 are all just doing like different versions or some like extensions, so don't worry about that. So all you have to turn in for this one is what we've done, steps 1 through 10, up to minimizing total cost using the solver. Okay, so don't worry about anything else after step 10. What we've done to this point is enough. Okay, and then let me just run through the practice problem, and then whatever you've done to this point, if it's not 100% correct, is fine. But if you want to start posting some of them to the discussions, and you're going to try to look at them and fix them, I can do that after we do the practice problems. So let's do the practice problem real quick. Where's that? Okay, so this is the practice problem a lot easier than trying to create the model, but here's a screen cap of something similar to the what we just did. So you got some different numbers for the aggregate planning sure step problem. And part A would just be to calculate production capacity for each month. And so production capacity, if you notice, is just the total hours we have for each month, and then divided by the labor hours it takes to make a pair of shoes. So if you have this many hours each month, and you divide that by the labor hours per pair of shoes, that's exactly how many total shoes you could possibly produce. So for the first month, it's just 10,384 divided by 4.4. And you can see that we have the same hours for months 2 and 3. So that comes out to 2360, 2360, and 2360. And in the final month, the equation's the same, total hours for production divided by labor hours per pair of shoes, but the last month we had 10,428. Divide that by 4.4, and you get 23,670. Alright, so production capacity is simply just the total hours per production divided by the labor hours per pair of shoes. That tells you how many, the maximum amount of shoes you can produce each month. Alright, then part B, this constant production function is not an accurate depiction of reality. What concept do we normally observe as more labor is added to production? So this is, see how this model assumes that no matter how many hours we're at, each 4.4 hours, you can produce a pair of shoes. But in reality, the production capacity changes. So normally you have a kind of a concept of changing returns, or a point where you get diminishing returns. In part C, if you draw a production function that illustrates what I'm talking about in B, this is what so in this simplified model, we have a straight line, so no matter what, every time you have 4.4 hours, you can produce a pair of shoes. But normally, in a production process, the first few hours are very productive, and then they're still productive through this line, but at some point they become less productive, and that's because if you're like in the shoe factory, if you have so many hours, eventually there's not going to be enough work to do, and at this point, some point they become less productive. So if you have so many hours that they can't do anything, then it costs more to pay the hours than they can produce. So this is typically what a production process will look like. Is the first 3 hours are very productive because you're going from 0 to whatever they can produce. Then they're productive but less so, and then at some point you've got too many workers, too many hours, and they have nothing to do. So this just shows that the model is simplification, but this is what you normally see. Okay, so what we did, or all we did today is what you have to turn in. So steps 1 through 10 go in example 4.3. So don't worry about the solver table or the extra steps, just steps 1 through 10. So after you do the solver in step 10, that's all you have to do. If your answer is a little bit different, that's okay. You can try to fix it, or I can try to help you fix it. So either tell me what you got. So who posted? No. So does anyone want me to look at theirs right now to try to fix it? It's already posted here?
I mean, I do, but I don't want to waste up people's class time, so if you want me to wait after.
Well, so let's do this. So we're done with that. We only have 2 minutes left anyways. And so example 4.3 is, well, so make sure these 2.6 and 3.1, which we did last week, are due today. So make sure you get those in by tonight. This one is not due until next Tuesday. Okay, so up to step 10, next Tuesday we'll do this one on Thursday. Alright, so we're done with class, but I'll stay an extra whatever to look at extra examples if you guys want to. So if you want me to look at your example 4.3 and fix it, I can do that now. If not, you're free to go, and I will see everyone Thursday morning. So have a good week, and thank you. Okay, so who just said
Jessica.
Okay, let me look at it. So the wrong Jessica?
Yep.
Okay, so total cost. Alright, so it looks like the solver parameters are correct, so that's good. Oh,
Why does mine, I've done it like 10 times and mine still says 7665.
I don't know, because I just did it.
I know, and I checked it, the parameters like 10 times and it just says like, it won't, every time I do it, it just says the exact same thing. It hasn't moved past that point. Yeah, I just did it again and it still stays. Is it just like taking forever to load?
I don't know, because I just resolved it and it came out 100% correct. So it's right, and I don't know why it's coming out differently.
Yeah, because mine still says 7665, and I've done it. Great.
When you get solver, it says you found the solutions.
Yeah, when I pick solver, it has like everything done, and I haven't touched anything because I know that like I looked at it like 10 times and it has the exact same parameters. And then I push solve, and then I push keep solver solution. Okay, and then it just doesn't do anything, and then it just says like the same. It has the same chart. It changed the numbers to like 000. It just won't change to that.
Well, I don't know, because it's correct. So I didn't do anything except resolve it, and it kept the same numbers as I got. So yours, I don't know, I couldn't tell you because it works on mine, but you did it right.
Okay.
So you can leave the one you posted, or you can post a new one that doesn't say wrong definition. But this is good.
If I leave the one that says wrong, will you just know it's not wrong now?
Yeah, that's fine. You can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. So did anyone else want me to look at theirs?
That's not really close to 65, but
Okay. So this is. Alonzo?
yeah.
Okay. Wait, is this? Yeah, this is yours, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yours is good. I mean, you got the right answer.
Okay, that's what kind of question I have some trouble with trying to figure out where to determine the red and the blue, but I have a problem with that. I'm not sure.
I can't really hear your audio that well.
Is that better?
Yep, a little bit, yeah.
I just have a little bit of trouble trying to figure out, trying to identify the light blue and the light red.
Oh, okay. So that's just the color system we use to try to be consistent. So the light blue are all inputs. Those are things that are kind of, like the prices, the numbers that are not going to change. And the red cells are things that those are decision variable ranges. So all these problems, we're trying to maximize and minimize some objectives by changing the red cells. So we chose workers hired, workers fired, how much overtime to use, and how much shoes to produce. So we chose what to go in there in order to minimize costs. So the red things are what we or solver chooses, right, to get the optimal solution. The inputs are blue; those are just going to stay the same.
Oh. Okay.
So when you go to the solver box and it says by changing variable cells, you're always going to choose the red cells because that's what you're changing.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I understand that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for this.
Okay, anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay, so this one's good, so you can leave it, and you're done with example 4-3.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Anna, are you still there?